Hello everyone. Today is Friday, March 11, 2016. My name is Brian McInerney. I'm the hydrologist here with the National Weather Service in Salt Lake City. This is the long version of the March 2016 water supply forecast. The image you're looking at here is a rendition of the winds at 11,500 roughly. The areas in red are the more dynamic parts of the jet stream, and as the jet stream goes, the weather goes. And those areas out in the Pacific Northwest that's rotating counterclockwise, that's an area of low pressure that has lots of storminess. As you move inland across the coast, and the coast we're looking at is right here for the California coast, we see it's all shunted north of us and down. And this is a very familiar pattern we've had for the last 4 years, unfortunately, because it's a clockwise rotating high pressure system that reduces the amount of precipitation and has brought heat to us in the past. So let's take a look at the precipitation anomaly that we dealt with during the month of February that had this high pressure right over us. And when you look at Utah, this map has the warmer colors indicating below average precipitation, and the cool colors indicate above normal precipitation. And Utah, for the most part, is below average precipitation, maybe 50 to 70%, but there are areas of 30 to 50% below what you typically have. When we compare this to last year, what you see is all sorts of areas of Utah covered in red, which means they had an absence of precipitation or maybe 10% precipitation during February. We're doing much better than we were at this point last year, but that's not saying a ton. When you look at the meteorological winter, December, January, February, what you see are white and cooler colors for the most part, maybe a little bit around the Uinta Mountains where it's less precip during the meteorological winter, but for the most part Utah really didn't do too bad. And then when you look at the temperatures, and this is for February, you see kind of an island of coolness except for the Uintas and except for the Wasatch Mountains. And unfortunately, that's where we get most of our water supply, where most of the people live. And when you see 7 to 10 degrees above normal with maybe 5 to 7 degrees above normal, those are tough temperatures to take when you're trying to build a snowpack. As a result, we lost a significant amount of snowpack, 6,000 feet to about 8,000 feet. And right now we have south-facing aspects up to 9,000 feet that are bare of snow. When you look at last year, you see amounts that are about 10 to 13 degrees above normal, with most of the area at 7 to 10 degrees above normal. And what you notice is the eastern part of the U.S. was very cold. When we look at the meteorological winter for temperature, we see Utah was normal to a little cooler than normal, with the exception of the Uintas and the Wasatch, which is a nice thing, especially when the entire nation will most likely have the warmest February we've ever recorded on record. Utah was a little cool spot during that time. When we look at our snowpack, what we see, and this is averaged for each basin, snow water equivalent is on the y-axis, time is on the x. We see that the average of all of the snowtail stations in the Bear River drainage is at 87%. The Weber at 92%. The red is last year, and you can see how abysmal that was. But the green is this year, and the blue is average. We'll move over to Six Creeks, and what we see is 90%. And it had a little jump there. It was starting to melt off. As you can see, during February, it flatlined and even lost some. We had melt significantly across all of the snowpacks in Utah during February. Utah Lake at 84%, Duchesne Group at 79%, the green above Fontenelle, meaning the upper green, 95%, 102% for the severe, which is really good. You can see how quickly, though, southern Utah snowpacks respond to those warm temperatures, and then as soon as they get a little bit more, things bounce right back. And then the Virgin, this is really an odd-looking graph, but the Virgin was at somewhere around 130%. Now it's at 87%. So let's take a look at the water supply numbers themselves. We'll look at a couple of points, and to start with, in the Bear Woodruff Narrows, and we're going to see 69% expected inflow from April 1st through the end of July at 84,000 acre feet. And if you're not familiar with this graphic, the volume of water is on the y-axis, time is on the x-axis. The shaded areas are the model probabilities of where we're headed. The vertical lines that are red are basically the forecast that's made for that specific month by the River Forecast Center out of Colorado Basin River Forecast Center. So you see January, February, March. You see the 50th percentile in the middle, and if you go up to the next little triangle, that's the 30th percentile, and then you go up to the top, and that's the 10th percentile. If you go down from the square, that's 70th percentile, meaning we have a 70% chance of getting there or 90% chance of getting there probability-wise. The line in the middle is the actual model ESP where it trends on a daily basis. So you can see it's been trending a little bit down due to that February. When you look at Stewart Dam, 44% of average, but this is also a regulated point. So now we'll move down into the Weber. And what we see here are three places. Weber near Oakley at 75% of average, or 88,000 acre feet. 60% of average, or 16.2 thousand acre feet for East Canyon. Pineview at 72% of average at 81,000 acre feet. So, you know, it was tough. We were doing so much better at the end of January than before that high pressure hit us. Little Cottonwood at 79% of average, expecting 30,000 acre feet. And then up into City Creek, 66% of average, or 5.1 thousand acre feet. Low elevation watersheds across the entire state were the ones that were affected and saw the greatest drop, 20% or more from forecast to forecast. When you look at Provo near Woodland, this is the headwater area above Jordanelle, 73% of average, or 73,000 acre feet. Spanish Fork near Castilla, 46% of average, or 32,000 acre feet. And this area, really for the last 4 years, including this area, has had such a poor time with water supply. Now we'll move into the Duchesne and the Price River Basin. Strawberry up in the headwater areas at 45% of average, or 32,000 acre feet. Pretty tough go. 66% of average at 71,000 acre feet for the Duchesne near Tabiona. And then we look at Knight's Diversion, 72% of average, 140,000 acre feet. And then down at Schofield, 66% of average, or 27,000 acre feet. Now we'll move to the Upper Green. We'll look at 2 points. Flaming Gorge, and that is at 67% of average, 6.6 million acre feet. And then we'll move downstream to the lower part, 70% of average at Green near Green, Utah, at 5.1 million acre feet. And that forecast has pretty much stayed the same as far as the 50th percentile. Now we'll move down into Lake Powell. The inflow coming from Colorado near the town of Cisco on the Colorado, 87% of average, 3.8 million acre feet, but you can see how that forecast has dropped. And then when you look at the overall inflow into Lake Powell, 80% of average. When we had the forecast at the beginning of February before this high pressure hit, this was at 97% of average. Things were looking much better, but it's only expected to be 5.7 million acre feet. A bright spot is the Sevier, and this has usually been our low spots. Last year it was near record low flows. The Sevier at Hatch in the headwater areas at 104% of average, or 50,000 acre feet. Paiute Reservoir at 115% of average, or 75,000 acre feet. Now moving over to the Virgin River Basin, the headwater point at Virgin is forecasted to be at 103% of average, or 60,000 acre feet, and this was also near record lows last year. The Virgin near Littlefield at the outlet, 102% of average, or 66,000 acre feet. So water supply conditions, the Virgin, the Sevier, much better. February really took a toll on the remainder of the state. When we look at peak flows, what's the probability we're going to reach flood stage? And when you look at this, there's a less than 10% chance where we are right now that it's going to reach flood stage unless we go huge, unless we get storm after storm. We have a really cold spring. It could change, but we have a less than 10 chance probability as the forecast map shows, really through Colorado and Utah. As far as drought goes, this is the drought conditions as of March 1st, 2016. When you compare that to last year, you see the areal extent of drought in the west has decreased significantly, and this is due to that strong El Nino we had, which really did well during December and January, but since that time has kind of petered out. You see California, though, is still in D4 extreme drought, and it's going to take a lot more to get them out of that. Utah, not so much, doing much better than we were last time at this year, or last year at this time. So we'll take that and go with it. There's my contact information. If you guys need anything else, give me a call, give me an email, and we'll go from there. Hopefully we'll get cool and wet for an extended period, but right now that high pressure over February took its toll. And I do appreciate taking the time to listen to this briefing.